Sabhagavaram Samma Sambuddho Swagato Ayena Bhagavanta Dhammo Subhatipano Yasa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Dhammayan Bhagavantam Sandamang Sasangang Imi Sakari Andaram Arupite Abhipujayama Sadhuno Bante Bhagava Sundira Bhanini Bhutopi Pajima Janatano Gamba Manasa Ime Sakari Dugata Panaka Prabhute Patiganato Amma Gandhi Garatam Etaya Sukaya Arahant Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhan Bhagavantam Abhivadin Swagato Bhagavanta Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavanto Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Dhamayang Buddhasa Bhagavato Bhagavaganama Karangaro Mase Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Oh, sorry, I'm a bit late this evening. I didn't have any power in my laptop. I don't have that much power in myself at the moment either, come to that, still never mind. So, very nice to see everyone. Please, everyone, sit up nicely. Good posture. Everyone here also sit up well. Good posture. And be prepared to remain absolutely still for the next 55 minutes or so. And I hope you'll be able to hear me. We've got the sounds of the countryside next door. Didn't bank on that, but anyway, we'll do our best. So good posture, body and mind alert. And we'll commence as usual by bringing to mind the Buddha, and recollecting his perfect mind. A mind that was not just free of any kind of corruption or defilement, but far away from it, far distant from any of it. A mind, too, of infinite compassion. A quite wonderful being, often described as perfect in knowledge and conduct. So remember, when you think of the Buddha or you happen to see a Buddha Rupa, be inspired to cultivate your mind and perfect your mind too, and free yourself from all suffering. And remember that on this spiritual journey, to maintain a mind of loving kindness, particularly for yourself. So whatever you see of yourself that you are unhappy with, don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself and understanding of yourself. Care for yourself and recollect and take joy in your good qualities, your merits. And at the same time, be accepting of things as they are now. And of course, take the same attitude to others. Be kind, caring, appreciative of their good qualities, and accepting of them. Now, briefly remind yourselves of the nature of your human condition. The time is passing, and as it does so, we're all, every one of us, getting older. And there's no stopping it. And at the same time, as we live this life, at almost any moment, we can catch something somewhere inside us that we know nothing about can suddenly go wrong, and we become ill. We live a very fragile existence. And of course, at some point, one day, somewhere, somehow, every one of us will die. There's no escaping that. So when you contemplate that, bring some urgency into your practice, because time is running out. Now is your opportunity. Now is your chance to make some use of this precious human birth and free yourself of your suffering and from the round of rebirth. So that means we have to cultivate our minds, change our minds. So sit up well now. Gather and concentrate your mind, and direct your concentrated mind at your body, your physical presence. Be mindful and aware of what you are doing just sitting. And then notice, be aware now of your breathing. And locate just where you feel and perceive the breath. And try to keep your attention just there, just at that one spot, that one place. And that's all you have to do. Be quite still and watch your breath. And if your mind wanders, should your concentration be interrupted by anything at all, sound of the tractor next door, some random thought, memory, ache or pain or anything at all, just observe, just watch. It's just hearing or feeling or thinking. And you let it go. And you bring your attention back to your breath. You find the breath again, and again you simply watch each in-breath, each out-breath. So please keep your very good, very still sitting posture. But in the next few minutes, while I'm talking, practice the art of listening. And be reminded that to listen to the Dhamma, to listen to Buddhist teaching is also a practice, an important practice. But to listen to the Buddha's teachings, you have to be concentrated and to simply listen. So don't worry about trying to remember what I say. Don't allow yourself to be caught up with any disagreement that appears in your mind about what I've said. Just listen. That's all. So as some of you know, the other day here we had a very pleasant, very successful celebration of the Buddha's first sermon and the entry to the Wasa. And those of you who were here will remember that just as I was explaining the contents of that first sermon of the Buddha's, and had just got to the reason, the cause of suffering, the rain began. Now, it wasn't very much. It was just a short shower, and most people were under the protection of the tent. But some weren't. And as they felt the rain, clearly dislike for that and desire for something else caused them to get up and make a run for it. Now, this was actually the better part of the teaching. Just remind yourselves then of what happened. People were sitting quite happily, and then they felt something. Their faculty of touch, perhaps sight, was in contact with the rain. And because of that contact, a feeling rose in their minds, a feeling of, clearly, of dislike that gave rise to a desire for something else. And that prompted them to get up and run for cover. Now, this illustrates, and this is what happens to us. And what was described by the Buddha as dependent arising. People sometimes, I think, fear this teaching a bit. They think it's a bit complicated and unattractive. But in reality, it's very simple. Where there is one thing, arises another. And it's very profound, because when you trace it back through the various links, you come to avijja, ignorance. Now, the formula of dependent arising covers three phases: past, present, and future. Past life, present life, future life. But also past moment, present moment, future. We suffer. Undeniably, we suffer. But, of course, many people don't seem to realize that. And if we think back to a time before we knew something about Buddhist teaching, we probably never thought about suffering. I know I didn't. Of course, I was unhappy at times, and of course I experienced discontent. And of course, I looked to remedy that discontent by getting something else, following my desire. And when I accomplished whatever I desired, of course, attachment was there. This is paticcasamuppada, dependent arising. It brings us the ignorance of the Four Noble Truths of suffering, its source, its ending, and the way to end it into this life. That ignorance conditions the way that we experience things, the way that we try to enjoy things, and of course, what we're doing and the mistaken way in which we conduct our lives lays the foundations for the future and for future birth and death. Now, all of us here have heard the Buddha's message, and we know about the Four Noble Truths. So it's like a small candle has appeared in our darkened room. A little light has appeared in our lives. But it's not really enough to completely change us. We're still making the same mistakes, even though we can see what we're doing now. We know what we're doing, and we have some notion of why it's happening, why we keep following desire, why we keep on making attachments to things and ideas and whatever. And we can see that this brings difficulty into our lives. And yet we can't help ourselves from doing it, from making those same old mistakes. So we have to do a bit more than just read about or hear about the Buddha's message. We have somehow to follow his advice, to practice, to cultivate that Noble Eightfold Path, the way out of suffering. Doing that, we change things, change our minds. And that small flickering candle can become brighter. And with time, it might even be as if we've introduced electricity into our room. And gradually we see better. But this takes time and effort. We have to be able to do what the Buddha did. To not only see suffering, but to recognize that we have to properly understand it. And then we have to have done that. We have to have accomplished that, to have really understood suffering. And we also have to have seen the cause of suffering and recognize that we need to abandon our craving and to have come to a point where that has been abandoned. This is what the Buddha did. And then, of course, he saw that suffering could be ended, that it needed to be accomplished, and he did it. And as for the Noble Eightfold Path, well, clearly, we have that before us, but it's to be practiced, it's to be cultivated. And only when it has been can the light really have been properly turned on in our gloomy room. The Buddha's message is a very simple one. None of it is very complicated, although it might look that way. Dependent arising looks that way, but it's so very obvious. We keep on making the same mistake. our senses are in touch, make contact with something or other. And inevitably, dependent on that, there is a feeling, usually liking or disliking. Well, basically, liking or disliking. Yes, sometimes people talk about indifference, but really and truly, it's never quite completely that way. We like things a bit, or we like them a lot, or we dislike them a bit, or we hate them. And dependent on that feeling, craving to have, craving not to have. And dependent on that, attachment, and following that, the whole process of becoming and birth and death. It's so very obvious. A weak link is that contact and the craving. If only we can see the nature of things at that point, the craving falls away. And so here we are, doing our best to develop our minds, to bring that light into our room and to see things for what they really are. It's a noble practice, and I recommend it to you. Do your best to cultivate that noble eightfold path, a path of morality, meditation, and wisdom, a simple path. So I think that had better be enough from me for tonight. We'll sit for just a few more moments. And during these closing moments, please concentrate your mind on metta, on loving kindness. May you and all beings be well and happy. May you and all beings be free from all suffering. May you and all beings realize for yourselves the secure peace of Nibbana. Arahant Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivade Swakato Bhagavanta Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavanto Savaka Sangho Sanghaṃ namāmi. So thank you all very much for coming. It's very good to see you all. Have a good weekend, and I hope we meet again soon. Good night.